In the vast world of the Metal Gear franchise, it's not very uncommon to find love for the more lesser-known characters that don't make huge appearances. The one character I definitely don't see getting enough love, though, is Iroquois Pliskin, a character from Metal Gear Solid 2. There's a lot of mystery surrounding this character. He kind of just shows up near the start and then disappears without a trace down the line. I want to talk about some possible theories as to who this character truly is. Pliskin first appears as a SEAL team member who shows up on the Big Shell during the Big Shell incident to aid new Foxhound recruit Raiden. Although he seems like a genuine person when we first meet him, Peter Stillman quickly sees the truth and tells Raiden that Pliskin isn't actually a SEAL team member.
I don't even think he's a Navy man.
What?
Simplify. Marine Corps talk.
So, from this little slip of the tongue, we know that Pliskin is actually part of the Marines. But that raises the question, what is a Marine man doing at the Big Shell? It could have something to do with his relationship with Solid Snake, someone he seems to know quite a bit about. He's at least able to know that Solidus isn't Solid Snake when he claims to be so.
No! That is not Solid Snake!
He does, interestingly, share the same face model as Snake, a trait shared by Solidus to show the two's linked genetic heritage. With all this evidence piling up, you may begin to ask yourself, is Pliskin actually Solid Snake? This is obviously not the case, and before I go any further, this Reddit post that shows the digital manual for the Master Collection version of the game is captioned as having an error. The point of interest here is the phrase that says Pliskin and Snake are actually the same person, but because this is an error, well, who might argue, this is definitive proof that they are not the same person. So then, if he's not Snake, who exactly is Pliskin? As we know from the tanker incident, Solid Snake is dead. He died during that mission, something repeated to Raiden during the game by the Colonel.
Right, but he can't be the Solid Snake. He died 2 years ago on that tanker, after he blew it sky high.
This does raise some questions, as Solidus does call him brother when he's first confronted.
Brother, I'm a whole different game from Liquid.
Because we know he can't be Solid Snake, but he's still Solidus' brother, this must mean he's the secret fourth child of the Les Enfants Terribles project. Secret fourth child, you might be asking? No need to worry, it makes perfect sense. The fourth child was never planned to be a super soldier to succeed a big boss like Solid, Liquid, and Solidus were. Therefore, he was unaccounted for in every previous mention of the project in the lore. What evidence do I have to support this? Well, you see, my parents talk about my three siblings all the time, and not me, because I'm a failure. Now, he still pursued a similar manner of life, because as we know from Stillman, he's a Marine. Now, Solid Snake is not a Marine, that much is obvious, which I think is the final nail in the coffin confirming that they are not the same person. Although he's actually a Marine, I think it makes sense that he would be on the tanker that Solid Snake decided to infiltrate. We already deduced that he wasn't in the Navy, which makes sense here because if he was in the Navy, he would probably be swimming right now because they like water a lot. So taking a trip on a land vessel over the water makes a lot more sense. I don't think it's any coincidence that Pliskin was on the tanker that Solid Snake just so happened to infiltrate. What the game didn't show us was their inevitable confrontation. Now, these two men probably won't remember each other, considering Pliskin was never talked about on the same level as Solid Snake. Hell, Solid didn't even know Liquid was his brother until he told him he was. However, based on the events of MGS2, I think it's clear as day what happened. We know at this point the Patriots already existed, and Solid Snake had a fox eye implanted in him from Shadow Moses. The Patriots knew that Solid Snake would try to expose the government for developing Metal Gear Ray units, so they sent in Pliskin on the tanker with a newer dose of fox eye. Because Snake had to sneak past literally everyone on the tanker at some point, they definitely were in close proximity with each other, which allowed Fox Eye to take effect. Since they both had it, they were both affected by it, but because Pliskin's was a newer dose, it was more efficient and beat out Snake's. So while the tanker was collapsing, Snake was getting killed due to Fox Eye. Pliskin was trying to make it out by the skin of his neck, but that's kind of hard when you're on a sinking ship, unless you're Nathan Drake, which is a notable theory, but I'll have to dive into it some other time. What is believed to have happened after this is Otacon simply saved Snake from drowning from a helicopter or something. I never saw this play out in real time, so here's what I think happened. Snake drowned, but Pliskin survived. Otacon rescued Pliskin, thinking he was Snake. Pliskin wasn't going to question why Weeb in a helicopter was saving him because although it probably would have been enticing to stay in the water, he unfortunately had too much to live for. Once back at their home base, Otacon would quickly notice it's not Snake he saved, but that he looked a lot like him. After a DNA test, it would confirm the two are related, and Otacon would try seeking his snub after the real Snake died. I'm gonna assume that Pliskin is a good guy, because if someone told me the government was making big evil robots, I'd probably be like, oh, that's bad. I'll help you, Otacon, yeah! So Pliskin agrees to help Otacon. Since Solid Snake is just a code name, Pliskin adopted it from the original Solid Snake and became the new Solid Snake, because he felt sympathy for what Snake and Otacon were fighting for. This would explain why he's so mad when Solidus claims that he's Solid Snake. He doesn't want people to wrongly think that Solid Snake was an evil dude. So after the events of the Tanker, the character before us isn't the original Solid Snake, but a new one, whose real name is Iroquois Pliskin. After Otacon rescued him, he decided to become the new Solid Snake and fight for what the original fought for. I think this is a very smart subversion of the game's main themes. At the end of the game, Snake tells Ryan that he should fight for what he believes in and not just listen to what others tell him. But knowing what we know now, Pliskin is doing the exact opposite of that and fighting for what the old Solid Snake believed in. I think this can be interpreted in two different ways. One, just because you sympathize with what someone else believes in doesn't mean you aren't thinking for yourself. Pliskin seems like a reasonable man, so I think he would have actually started to believe those things himself. Because he took the time to think it over, he wanted Raiden to not go down the road that he was on before as a Marine. The second possibility is that he doesn't actually believe any of what he's fighting for. Otacon told him a sad story about how Snake died, and Pliskin thought, oh boo-hoo, my brother is dead, and it's my fault for having Farsi in my system. I should help Otacon to make up for it. He's only fighting on behalf of Snake because he feels guilty. This makes his life lesson to Raiden at the end of the game more like a warning in a sense. A warning to not go down the same dangerous road that Pliskin is now all too familiar with. He wants Raiden to be a better individual than he ever could be himself. I hope that this clears up everything for anyone curious about Pliskin's seemingly random inclusion. Metal Gear is a series that can be analyzed for eons, and I'm surprised nobody has really touched this topic before. It just goes to show how genius Hideo Kojima is at making these kinds of in-depth stories. Bravo, Kojimbo, you've done it again.